Good morning. If you would please join me in singing hymn 170 in the gray hymnal, but take a moment and look at verse 5. It's hymn 170. The composer, Holly Neer, has given us permission to change 2 words in verse 5 for use in this service. And these were suggested by the worship team. They do not reflect a permanent change, so do not take your pen out and mark this in the hymnal. But for just today, we're going to sing in verse 5, we are cis and trans together, instead of we are gay and straight together, okay? Verse 5, cis and trans. This is by permission of the composer. So if you would, rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn 170, We Are a Gentle, Angry People. Thank you. Please have a seat. And good morning again. I wanted to mention that anyone can access the order of service at uua.org/OOS or by using the QR code that's posted at the entrance to the sanctuary. And especially for those watching online, the order of service includes the lyrics to the songs, so you can sing along even if you don't have a hymnal. Or sometimes songs that are not in the hymnal, you'll have the lyrics there. So welcome. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor. We are delighted you are with us this morning as we honor Transgender Day of Visibility, which is celebrated internationally on March 31st. And this is also a season that holds a coincidence of events to observe, including the vernal equinox, marking the start of the season we call spring in the Northern Hemisphere, the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan for our Muslim siblings, and we are midway through the season of Lent for our Christian siblings. We are a community that has been gathering since 1865, and the early congregation would never have imagined the congregation extending beyond these physical walls, or beyond the boundaries of the city, or beyond even the borders of this country. But because of the magic of technology today, UUAA is potentially everywhere. So wherever you are, and if you are new to us, we'd like to offer a couple of ways to connect. If you're here in person, a newcomer welcome is held after the service in the Jackson Chapel, which is just outside these doors, up a little ways and on the right. There's a sign, and there'll be someone in that room to help answer any questions you might have. And if you're with us virtually, we invite you to fill out a newcomer survey at uuaa.org/newcomer survey. This Sunday's service has taken shape through the creative energy of many, but in particular, lay leaders Kevin Werner, Arika Lycan, and Ferrise. Additionally, you'll hear from Ange Zaytsev and Eli Krantz. Music today is led by our Pianist-in-Residence, Allison Halerz, by Dr. Carter Smith, our Acting Director of Music Ministries, and by members of the Chalice singers, Kirsten Birando, Abby Samuels, and Dick Bauman. Yeah. Mike Halerz, our technology consultant, make sure that what we are experiencing here in the sanctuary translates beautifully to the online experience. And there are countless volunteers working behind the scenes every Sunday to make Sunday mornings happen. I am Reverend Theresa Rohlck, the Minister of Pastoral Care. I use she, they, dia pronouns. You may be thinking, oh, she's never introduced herself that way before. Or you may be thinking, did she say one of her pronouns is dia? What's that? So when I'm interacting in the Indonesian community and in that language, my pronoun is dia, which in that language is gender neutral. Carter is dia, Allison is dia, all of us here are dia. And you know, the world just keeps working just fine, and no one is confused. So some of us never think about what pronouns to use. We just default in the English language to she or he, usually based on what someone looks like. So when someone introduces themselves with their pronouns, that is something to respect and to commit to using. No matter if it's hard or awkward for you to say they or sie, you can learn how to do this. And it matters deeply, and it reflects our affirmation as Unitarian Universalists of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and our affirmation of the entire spectrum of gender identities. Even if you mess up, it's okay to just correct yourself and start again. So I'd like to invite you to do what I just did. And if you're online and feel comfortable doing this in the chat, type your name and what pronouns you use. And for those of you here, now do not get up, just turn to someone nearby and say your name and speak out loud your pronouns. Let's try it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, those with very long names. Thank you all. So I'd like to invite you which I think many of you are already doing, but to reflect on that experience. And was that uncomfortable or was it comfortable? Think about why or why not. Carry that with you this week. Today, through reflections, stories, and music, from history to current legislation to personal stories, we will highlight the resilience, brilliance, and joy in trans non-binary experiences. With open hearts and minds, we are gathered for worship.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Arika Lycan, a member of the Leadership Development Team, the Racial Justice ARC, and our congregation's Lay Worship Leaders Program. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I'm honored to be in community with you today on Trans Day of Visibility for the lighting of our chalice, a uniting symbol for Unitarian Universalists across the world. This Sunday, Ange Zaytsev will join us in physically lighting our community's chalice. Ange, would you please join us on the chancel now? As we light our chalice this morning, whether you are joining us in person here or tuning in online, we are reminded of our continued commitment to each other. If you are watching virtually, please feel free to share in the chat the words, "The chalice is lit" in with your location. It's in the spirit of community that we join together in these familiar words as our chalice is lit. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Ange. Ange is going to share some words with us now.
Hello. I am Ange Zaytsev. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I identify as non-binary because gender just does not make sense to me anymore. So I have a small selection of readings to share with you this morning. They were gathered by Forge, which is a national trans anti-violence organization that provides services to trans survivors. So they had posted a prompt online inviting people to write in to describe what trans joy means to them, and these are some of the responses that they gathered. So first of all, from Ivy, we have, "Trans joy to me is about freedom. So often as trans people, we are worried about how we are perceived, respected, and how we navigate the world. It often feels like we can't escape this. But trans joy is about letting go. It's about realizing how truly magical and beautiful it is to be trans. Trans really is a form of resistance against the systems and people who tell us to be small and shameful. Trans joy is unapologetic, beautiful, loud, and it is freeing." Dandelion wrote, "Trans joy is a participation in the divine act of creation, an alchemy of the self, a great unfolding. Trans joy is defiant, invincible, soft, and bleeding. Trans joy is the spiritual connective tissue between me and all my siblings across the world and its centuries. Every breath I breathe in euphoria, I know I do not bleed alone." From Casey, "Trans joy means living authentically and safely in my body. It's hearing my chosen name echo back to me. Trans joy is evolving, a revolution of sorts, and it means carrying on the legacy of trans elders and ancestors so that there's joy for the ones to come." And then our last reading is from Luke Grayson Skinner. "Most of the time, we only hear about the bad and tragic things that happen to trans people. So seeing other trans people survive, thrive, and pave the way for trans youth to be able to be happy, truly who they are, and loved and respected by their families and communities, that's incredible and what we all need to see and feel. So we are able to see the amazing things that come with being trans instead of just the bad things that so many of us experience." Thank you.
Thanks again, Ange, for sharing those voices with us. Appreciate it. Another way that we can center ourselves in our commitment to each other is by sharing and reciting our community's covenant. Please join me as we say the words of our covenant together. The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another. I'd like to invite Eli Krantz up to share a story with us.
Good morning. My name is Eli. My pronouns are he, him, and I am trans, masculine in the way that Jell-O is a solid. And I'm very honored to participate in the Time for All Ages and lead the Time for All Ages today. Children know who they are, sometimes better than the adults in their lives. Today, we celebrate visibility and acceptance of trans people through the story of an almost 5-year-old. We will witness the sweet simplicity with which acceptance can happen and how a foundation of love and support in our lives can free up our energy to use in the pursuit of our goals. Today's story is Born Ready, a true story of a boy named Penelope, written by Jodie Patterson and illustrated by Charnel Pickney Barlow. I'm no ordinary kid. I'm a ninja. Ninjas are strong. Ninjas are smart. Ninjas always win the fight. Usually, ninjas have ninja names. But my parents named me after my grandmother, Penelope, and that makes things hard. Penelope, you're so cute. Penelope, you look just like your sister. No one understands. Big brother acts like he knows everything. Penelope, do you know that the air around a lightning bolt is hotter than the sun? Nope. Do you know that everything has a scientific explanation? Nope. I may not know everything, but I know what I like. Skateboards and high tops, baggy blue jeans, button front shirts, math, science, and getting straight A's. And most of all, a mohawk haircut, please. Mama is the busiest person I know. Papa is the strongest person I know. Big brother is the smartest. Big sister is the bossiest. And baby, he's the happiest. He can make anyone smile. If they'd all stop and listen, I'd tell them about me. I am a boy. When I close my eyes and dream, I'm a boy. When I karate chop the bad guys, I am a boy. Skipped a page. But my family is too busy to notice. I stomp through the house so they hear me. I cut the line at the playground so they see me. I pound my fists hard so they feel me. Time out. Pleppy, why are you so angry? Mama asks. Because everyone thinks I'm a girl. However you feel is fine, baby. It's what's on the inside that matters most. If you feel like a boy, that's okay. No, Mama, I don't feel like a boy. I am a boy. Oh? Mama gets quiet. I love you, Mama, but I don't want to be you. I want to be Papa. I don't want tomorrow to come because tomorrow I'll look like you. Please help me, Mama. Help me be a boy. I hold Mama's hand and I transfer some of my ninja powers to help her understand. Mama says the best word I've ever heard. Yes. She says, we will make a plan to tell everyone we love what we know. What's that? You are a boy. For the first time, my insides don't feel like fire. They feel like warm, golden love. Our family is from all over the world, and Mama says that makes us wise. Grandpa G flies in from Ghana for my birthday. Mama bakes a cake. We gather around the table. Akwaba, says Mama. Penelope is not a pretend boy or a tomboy. He is our 5-year-old big boy. All eyes are stuck on me. Grandpa G slams his hand down on the table. Ah, chale. In my language of Twi, gender isn't such a big deal. We don't use gender pronouns. I don't understand everything, but I do know that Grandpa G is smiling. Good. Let's eat cake. But Big Brother isn't smiling. He looks mad. This doesn't make sense. You can't become a boy. You have to be born one. Mama puts her arms around both of us and pulls us in tight. Not everything needs to make sense. This is about love, she whispers. Papa stands up tall. Well, P, if you want me to call you a boy, you'll have to tell me yourself. I stand up tall too. I am a boy. It's Monday, and Mama says school is my responsibility. I'm going to show my friends all of me. I put on my blue pants. I button my favorite shirt. I tighten my long tie. I feel good. I walk into school like I own the joint, just like Grandpa Johnny Boy from Harlem taught me. Hey, Pen, why are you wearing a boy's uniform? My friend Big D asks. Because I am a boy. And I like my full name, please. Penelope. Yeah, makes sense. And you look great, he says. We high five. Principal asks to see me. Penelope, I heard your classmates were asking about your uniform, she says. Were you embarrassed? I want to tell Principal that ninjas don't get embarrassed, we get busy. But I just shake my head no. Your parents told me you are a boy. Is that true? I think like a boy. I feel like a boy. I might look different from other boys. But yes, I'm sure I'm a boy. Well, Penelope, today you're my teacher. Mama says ninjas need to be powerful, so I study karate. Lil P, you ready for this? Master Bill asks. He's the loudest man I know, and I like it. He teaches me how to fight and train hard with my team. Little P, give me a left foot roundhouse kick, Master Bill says. I try my best, but it's confusing. No, your left foot, left. Master Bill says, if you don't do, you can't become. Mama says, winners are losers who get back up. I say, ninjas don't quit. I practice every day, breathing and stretching, blocking and punching. Most important, I learn to get back up. Master Bill says I'm ready. Papa drives us to my first tournament. I bring my cheering squad. Baby, are you sure you want to fight? Mama asks. Remember to protect yourself, Papa says. Don't worry, I tell them. I'm not afraid. Then Big Brother jumps in. Ninjas never back down from a challenge, P. You've got this, he says. When we check in at the front desks, my teammates are already there. Yo, you ready, P? Born ready. My opponent is tall. My opponent is fast. We've both come to win. This won't be easy. I shuffle my feet. I bob from side to side. Boom! Roundhouse kick to the head. I score. I win. When they give out the gold, What name would they call? And the gold goes to Penelope. Me. It's my time. I'm a boy named Penelope.
Thank you, Eli. Now is the time in our service when we sing our children to their programs. So I invite all of the young people to follow their teachers out of the sanctuary as the congregation sings with love.
Good morning. My name is Kevin, and I use he, him, and I am transgender. Following the 1998 murder of Black trans woman Rita Hester, Transgender Day of Remembrance, or TDOR, was conceived to honor her and others, many unfortunately unnamed, who were slain, leaving a stain on this country and the world. As someone who is raised partially Jewish, I was familiar with the concept of coming together to mourn the loss of those taken from a community with the brute force of ignorance and intolerance. When Mark Campbell was composing the first transgender opera, As One, he chose to include a reading of the names of those slain as what is done in TDOR events. To some, this is too much to bear and take on. I love these TDOR events because I can be with my community in solidarity. At the same time, I wished it was for a happier occasion. So did Rachel Crocker Crandall. Thanks to visible people like Rachel, I had role models to look up to. The trauma of reliving and recovering from attending those TDOR events over the years wore us down, which led Rachel to create another day, another space for us to celebrate our brilliant, authentic, true selves. The first celebratory day was in 2009, when we came together as members of the transgender community, just wanting to be. There is no right or wrong way to be trans, so we embraced a large diversity of people, including those who challenge society's traditional gender roles and or expressions. March 31st was chosen for the annual Transgender Day of Visibility, not for any specific reason, but just because it was far enough from TDOR in November and not too close to Pride in June. Fast forward 2019, when our own Big Gretch Governor Whitmer and Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist issued a special tribute regarding Transgender Day of Visibility on its 10th anniversary celebration. How far we've come. During the pandemic, I was privileged to attend an international event on Transgender Day of Visibility. I smiled when I heard the person who led the event recognize Rachel for her contribution. Although President Biden proclaimed TDOV 2 years earlier than this year, he did not mention Rachel. I hope that will change soon and that she will get the recognition widespread that she deserves. I am grateful to see how far we have come over these many years. As Mark, someone who sits, it took 40 years to pass the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. Thankful to all the people who understand that we need to be visible, and glad that bullies who would erase us from history do not win. In preparation for this service, I spoke with Rachel and asked her if there was anything specific to add, considering that she wouldn't be able to be here with us in this space in person. She says, given our current political climate, in which we need all to be soldiers of equality, we can make it bigger. Let's go bigger. Instead of just a few days at the end of March, why not the whole month? Why not march forward with trans resilience, brilliance, and joy for the whole month? So I know next year I am looking forward to T-Mauve 2024. Thank you.
Spirit made a place for you where everything is new. Spirit made a place for
Hello again. As you have likely heard, over 435 pieces of anti-LGBTQ legislation, over a quarter of which is specifically anti-trans, are being monitored across the country, and we're barely 3 months into 2023. This looks to be the most threatening year that we've had yet legislatively. That aforementioned LGBTQ acronym, by the way, stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and similarly identified, and we'll use it quite a bit today, sometimes adding an I and an A for intersex and asexual. While we learned in the 1960s that the personal is political, the present day reminds us that the political is also personal. It's no coincidence that mental health and suicidality of LGBTQIA youth and violence against members of our community is rocketing at the same time that these bills are advancing. Many have rightly noted that what is happening with the onslaught of these laws is beyond a backlash, and go so far as to call it a genocide of transgender people.
AJ, a local 14-year-old trans kid who used to attend True Hope here at UUAA, and one of my kids' best friends, said, "The anti-trans bills make me very scared. I don't want the progress of my transition journey to be undone just because cis people don't like who I am." And the fear isn't contained to those in our country. An Australian bi-trans man in Australia told us in response to how the current legislation in the US makes him feel. Awful, of course. Watching it from afar is horrifying. The proliferation of anti-trans rhetoric is occurring not just in the US. Recently, a notorious transphobe from the UK toured here in Australia. Another was platformed on a well-known discussion program on TV, and I fear that those things will happen here, too.
The Movement Advancement Project, an LGBTQ policy organization, helps to shine a light on the multi-pronged attacks against LGBTQ people across the country. They've identified 8 tactics that legislators, lobbyists, and politicians are using to erase LGBTQ people and youth from schools and public life. We're going to talk over a few of those issues today together. While we can't comprehensively give you an outline of each and every piece of legislation in each state, and you likely wouldn't want to hear it all, we do want to give a sense of the fights we're up against and what to be aware of as community members, allies, and accomplices. We will contrast these hard realities with some examples of things to be thankful for in our local communities and congregation, and personal examples of how contrasting support and affirmative policies can shift a cloud of anxiety and despair into celebrations of trans joy.
The first type of legislation that we'll cover is about bathroom bans. In many states across the country, legislatures are enacting or considering bathroom bans, which require people to use the bathroom based on their sex assigned at birth. Besides being unjust, this is hugely uncomfortable, unsafe, and unfair for trans and non-binary folks who are simply trying to use the restroom. In these cases, people are being subjected to outing, bullying, and outright violence in bathrooms and locker rooms. And it is common for trans people to suffer real medical problems from going whole days without using the bathroom. We are grateful for the following positive things in our own community. Ann Arbor Public Schools policy states that with respect to all restrooms, locker rooms, and changing facilities, students shall have access to facilities that correspond to their gender identity. Students who are uncomfy using a gender-segregated facility, regardless of their reason or identity, have access to alternatives, but that those alternatives must be initiated by the student and not required by anyone at the school. We're also thankful to know that there are gender-inclusive restrooms right here at UUAA and in many public places around town, like restaurants and the library and things like that. Personally, in the 90s and early 2000s, I was dating someone who was frequently misread as a man, and over the course of many years had endured a great deal of harassment, violence, and even assault in women's bathrooms. She frequently wouldn't use bathrooms at all unless accompanied, and I was often her femme decoy. When we were both part of the staff of the LGBT Campus Center, she initiated, and along with the rest of our staff, we advocated for years for gender-inclusive bathrooms on campus. I'm really happy to say that it was that work which finally resulted in the very first bathroom of its kind at U of M, which was on the 3rd floor of the Michigan Union. The relief that she lived with on a daily basis after that, by not having to endure gendered bathrooms, was palpable. Arika currently works at the University of Michigan and says, while not perfect, they're working to make or retrofit bathrooms to be gender inclusive across campus. Knowing that I have a close restroom that doesn't force me to choose a gender while at work is important.
The next topic that we'll discuss is book bans. Controversy over book titles in schools and public libraries have become a focal point, recently inflamed in the culture wars around the country, including our own state of Michigan, under the guise of cries of parental rights or accusations of materials being sexually explicit by burgeoning ultra-right-wing advocacy groups. School administrators, legislatures, and politicians are jumping on the bandwagon to remove access to a wide range of information and material in schools and public libraries, most of which focuses on knowledge and identity around race and LGBTQIA issues. Books have always played a huge role in the LGBTQIA community being able to find themselves, feel comfortable in their own skin, and learn how to forge relationships in community. This lack of access will take away a vital part of LGBTQIA people's ability to access information that can keep them safe and will send us as a society backwards to a time where being closeted instead of proud was normalized. We are thankful here at UUAA we've had entire services dedicated to banned books as recently as this past September. We are a community of free thinkers and learners in which the idea of banning books because of sensitive content goes against our values. We have several local library systems here in Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County, and bookstores as well that definitely stock these banned books and even have a banned book reading club. So there's great ways to access those books if you're interested. Personally, I happened upon a book called Genderqueer, a memoir by Maia Kobabe, which is currently the #1 challenged book in the country, and Stella Anderson gave a review for in our September service, if you remember. It gave voice to many of the experiences, feelings, and struggles I've encountered as a gender fluid person, and it was extremely validating to read, even as a 35-year-old at that point. I can't imagine not being allowed to access that book or banning that book in high schools around the country, where kids are so desperately looking for others like themselves.
Spirit made a place for you, where everything is new. Spirit made a place for you, where everything is new. Spirit made a place for you, where everything is new.
Names and gender marker changes are another place where bans are happening across the country. One of the ways that many people empower themselves during a gender transition is to give themselves a name and/or pronouns that better reflect to them and the world how they want to present. The ability to name ourselves is deeply personal and can be one of the cornerstones in many people's paths to live authentically. In many schools and communities, the right to self-name is being threatened. Policies are being enacted to refuse to recognize names or pronouns that don't match student sex assigned at birth, sometimes ever, and sometimes without parental consent, which would in many cases necessitate that kids come out to unsafe parents, making them choose between two unbearable choices. Some workplaces have also instituted bans on pronouns that don't match biological sex as well. And states are beginning to legislate against gender marker changes. Carrying ID with gender markers which don't match someone's gender presentation can be highly dangerous. we are thankful for the positive policies in our own community. In Michigan, gender marker changes have gotten easier, require no documentation or questioning, and include a gender-neutral marker as an option. Washtenaw County regularly holds name change clinics several times a year to streamline and take any confusion out of the process for folks and to save them time, hassle, and money. AJ legally changed his name on his last birthday, and it was a joy to celebrate with him and his mom. He told me, "Getting my name changed was such a relief. I no longer had to worry about painful and awkward experiences where my dead name was said in public, and that released a lot of stress." A dead name, by the way, is a birth name that someone no longer uses. The etiquette is to never use that name after someone has transitioned to a new one, unless you have explicit permission from them to do so.
Banning trans kids from sports. Participation in sports is a way that many people, including many in the room here likely, have benefited from their whole lives. We gain social skills, teamwork, confidence, exercise, communication, perseverance, and so much else. The opportunities that athletic involvement can provide are being legislated against for both kids and adults on the basis of gender identity in a massive move to ban trans and non-binary kids and adults from participation, sports teams, and competitions around the country. 19 states currently have bans against trans people participating on teams that are consistent with their gender identity. These laws often specifically target trans girls. In our own community, locally, we're thankful that Michigan is not one of those states. Our school system has a non-discrimination policy that includes gender identity and that kids can participate in sports consistent with their gender identity. As part of a national education campaign called Play It Out, the advocacy group Gender Cool recently launched a new TV ad that features transgender youth athletes talking about why participation in sports matters to them. "I play sports for the same reasons all kids play sports," 17-year-old Amir explained in a press release. "Sports is like a family to me. We show up for each other. I even want to be a coach someday so I can help others get where they want to be." Gender Cool founder Jen Grosshandler, a lifelong athlete and parent of a transgender teen, spoke to the importance of highlighting true stories from transgender athletes as legislators across the country try to ban them from competing. "Communities everywhere deserve the facts around a conversation that's in need of clarity," Grosshandler said. "When folks have a chance to spend time with our kids, they often come to the same conclusion. Our kids play sports to be part of a community and have fun with their friends. All kids belong in sports. It's that simple."
Love has made a place for you where everything is new. Love has made a place for you where everything is new. Love has made a place for you where everything is new.
Next topic is on Don't Say Gay and other gender-limiting parental consent issues. In states and school districts across the country, Florida is leading the way here, legislators and school boards and other decision makers are considering legislation to prohibit the use of federal funds to develop, implement, facilitate, or fund any sexually oriented program, event, or literature for children under the age of 10. In reality, these laws limit the ability of LGBTQ teachers to come to school as their authentic selves and to acknowledge their families at school. For students, it limits what they can share and restricts who they are able to be at school. The laws significantly narrow the ability to find a safe space at school amongst peers and trusted teachers and staff. And don't let the young ages fool you. Now that Florida passed its original law, it's going back for more. Legislation banning any instruction related to sexual orientation or gender identity all the way through high school is now on the table. We are thankful for the following positive policies in our own community. Many local schools have out and open trans and LGBTQ teachers, parents, and kids. Ann Arbor Public Schools, for example, has a policy specific to the inclusion of trans and non-binary students, intended to foster an educational environment for all students that is safe, welcoming, and free of stigma from and discrimination regardless of sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression, and ensure that all students have the opportunity to express themselves and live authentically. You might have seen Michigan just expanded recently the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. Kevin mentioned that earlier. Yes, yep. Thanks, everybody. To include sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. It's still very early to see the positive effects of this law yet, but it brings a degree of safety and security, or at least support, to LGBTQ people and their families who are not often able to bring their full identities to work.
The last topic we'll cover is gender-affirming care for both kids and adults. The World Health Organization defines gender-affirming care as a wide range of social, psychological, behavioral, and medical interventions that are designed to support and affirm an individual's gender identity in an effort to align various aspects of trans and non-binary people's lives with that gender identity. This can include therapy, puberty blockers, hormones, surgeries, and a host of other things. Every reputable psychological and medical care organization, including the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychological Association, and the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, support gender-affirming care for both adults and kids. Yeah. Unfortunately, though, the topic of gender-affirming care has been a highly debated topic this legislative season. Some form of legislation has passed barring minors from accessing care in 11 states, and it's on the table in around 20 more. Some states are also banning this kind of care for adults. Make no mistake, the Protect Our Kids rallying cry that they're using is not about protecting kids. It's ultimately about eliminating the possibility of gender transition altogether for those of any age. In some of the places where legislation is happening, health providers' licenses are being threatened for providing this life-saving care, and parents who seek care for their gender dysphoric kids are being charged with literal child abuse. Across the country, families are having to make decisions to literally flee their states to access care, and many are doing so. We are thankful in our community for the following ways that gender-affirming care is supported. The University of Michigan has a long-standing program called the Comprehensive Gender Services Program, and it has recently created a community input board to solicit feedback and guidance from the trans and non-binary community themselves. Planned Parenthood now offers gender-affirming care on an informed consent model, and it has established a trans and non-binary community advisory board as well to guide its care of trans patients and providers of those trans-friendly services. Our community has multiple trans-led mutual support groups. Our community has multiple providers of mental health care and medical services for those who are exploring or transitioning their gender. And we are super grateful for across the board. I think it's important to say that Michigan, with its elected leaders that we elected in November, is pretty safe from all of this legislation for at least the next 4 years. So we're super grateful for that. Our aforementioned local 14-year-old friend AJ began taking testosterone less than a year ago. He's been thrilled about it. He shared the following on how it makes him feel. At first, kind of nervous. I mean, it's sticking a needle into yourself once a week. But after that, it was such a positive experience. My voice dropped, which was fun. I started growing facial hair, and that increased my euphoria so much. Our Australian respondent told me in response to asking what brought him trans joy and what inspires gender euphoria in him. He said, "My chest. I look at it still, and it's like magic. And it's been 7 years since my top surgery." And a trans woman writer named Joan Ritberg said, "I still remember the first day I got my dose of estrogen and Spiro. It felt like trans Christmas. I never had been so happy walking home from the pharmacy. With medication in hand, I just knew it would change my life. I had been on a wait list for hormones for 2 years. Even though I knew hormones would be a long process, I was just ecstatic to get started. I felt like I was starting something bigger than myself, and in a way I was. I was finally transforming myself into the woman I always saw myself as. Granted, you don't have to go on medical treatment to feel valid as a woman or in your identity, but I just knew it would be right for me. I hated looking in the mirror pre-hormones. I felt shame over my tiny breasts, and I wanted to look like the other girls. I went from that to suddenly loving how I looked, suddenly fitting into more dresses, and I couldn't stop taking selfies of myself. I went from dress pants to work, to dresses and heels after hormones. I was growing into myself, and just because of some jagged little pills. I know hormones changed my life for the better. It was something I did not even know was in my future. It takes a village to build a woman, and I could not have done it without the encouragement from the people I love. Happiness is contagious, and trans joy is contagious. Not allowing trans health care is a form of great harm and inhumanity."
Grace has made a place for you where everything is new. Grace has made a place for you where everything is new. Grace has made a place for you where everything is new.
One way we are able to support the important work being done by this congregation is through the spiritual practice of our offering. Today we honor Transgender Day of Visibility as a way to lift us up as a people. This congregation supports two vital and active groups for the LGBTQIA+ individuals. Kaleidoscope, which seeks to build an intergenerational space where we can flourish in our queer plus trans lives through education, social activities, and activism. In true, that is TRUU, Hope, a group for LGBTQIA+ youth, which aims to grow community and to provide social support, education, and activist programs and communities for our youth to explore their identities and interests. These groups in our congregation's leadership help us in the LGBTQIA+ community feel truly welcome here with a safe spiritual home in a world where so many still, unfortunately, in my LGBTQIA+ family have been wounded by the church. I am proudly here to be part of a congregation that cares to help mend those wounds. There are so many ways you can give to support the work of these groups and other ministries and the other ministries and programs of this congregation. As the baskets are passed, We invite you to drop in checks or cash. If you prefer a digital option, it is 2023, folks. You can text UUAA to 7325, select weekly offering for the fund, or visit uuaa.org/giving for the fund. However you give, thank you for your generosity and your commitment to making our congregation and community a better place for all people. I would now like to invite our ushers forward as today's offering will be greatly given and received.
You deserve to be loved. 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 You deserve to be acceptance and equity, and we will accept you and carry on our legacy of finding our own truth and meaning, of seeking out and also hearing the voices fighting for justice in our interconnected world. You are the voices fighting for justice, and we thank you for all you've done. We are the voices fighting for justice, and a new song has just begun. To remind you that you deserve to be loved. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to be
Thank you so much for that powerful music. The piece you've just heard was called A Welcome Thought, written by Luke's Ezra Onigman, who identifies as a Jewish, non-binary, gender-fluid individual who uses they-them pronouns. This song was commissioned by the UUWC Crossing Chorale and is directly inspired by the 8 UU principles. Sorry, not done. I would invite the ushers to come forward now, and as they do, will you rise in body or spirit as we dedicate our offering? Please join me in saying the words of the congregation, of the dedication. To this work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. Please be seated.
Several years ago, likely over a decade now, a circle sister of mine brought the biggest teaching with the smallest phrase into our community. In a gorgeous, candlelit, rose-strewn room, she said with conviction, "You are beloved because you are." I swear to you that those 6 words changed my life. We do not need to be perfect. We do not need to earn our way to love or authenticity or justice. We are enough simply by being, and we all deserve all of that and more. A few years after that, my friend Shelley shared this song of hers in a sacred song circle that I participate in, and it resonated with me deeply. I hope that it moves you as much as it continues to move me. I'm going to sing through it once, and then I'm going to teach it to y'all line by line. I am enough, and I believe that I am beautiful. I am enough, and I believe that I am strong. I am enough, and I believe that I can do what I must do. I am enough, I do believe I am enough. All right, I'm gonna sing a line, and then you sing it back to me, okay? I am enough, and I believe that I am beautiful. I am enough, and I believe that I am beautiful. I am enough, and I believe that I am strong. I am enough, and I believe that I am strong. I am enough, and I believe that I can do what I must do. I am enough, and I believe that I can do what I must do. I am enough, I do believe I am enough. I am enough, I do believe I am enough. I'd love if you could rise in body or spirit and join our voices together with this song. I am enough, and I believe that I am beautiful. I am enough, and I believe that I am strong. I am enough, and I believe that I can do what I must do. I am enough, I do believe I am enough. I am enough, and I believe that I am beautiful. I am enough, and I believe that I am strong. I am enough, and I believe that I can do what I must do. I am enough, I do believe I am enough. I am enough, and I believe that I am beautiful. I am enough, and I believe that I am strong. I am enough, I do believe I am enough. Friends and beloved community, our nation is in the midst of a sweeping backlash against some of its most vulnerable members. Members who have often walked through multiple struggles in order to arrive at and live in their authentic truths. Members with whom I share this chancel and our UUAA community and my everyday life. Members who shine the brilliant, bright lights of their spirits and help us learn from their mere existence how to live better into our own truths. This backlash is immense and it is profoundly dangerous. It will cost lives. It already has. At the same time this backlash rages, we are in the midst of a gender revolution that is breaking down barriers and allowing our kids and ourselves to embrace fuller selves and to walk further and further away from the roles and stereotypes that have confined us all for far too long. Resources and opportunities have expanded, new paths are opening, new ideas and language are developing at the speed of light. Many of us, our loved ones, and our community members have found support and community and are able to more easily access gender euphoria and are living loudly or quietly with trans joy. We are at a crossroads in our culture. It is up to all of us to contribute to this story. It is up to all of us to create a community that embraces us all. I invite you down the path of justice. I invite you down a path of authentic living. I invite you to contribute to and to live with gender euphoria, and I invite you to experience trans joy. Let us go in love, in peace, and in justice to cultivate a better world for us all. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.